Okay, I got the frame back up on the jig here, and what I've done is I had it clamped down, and I went ahead and just put in some better welds. I didn't do all of the finish welding, but I went ahead and reinforced this. Here in a little bit, I'll get this thing tipped up on its side, and I'll go ahead and do the full outside welds here. I'll get the inside weld taken care of up in there to add some strength to it. And then same in the front. I went ahead and put a plug weld into place on each side here. And then I went ahead and welded across the bottom on each side as well. So, and then the last thing that I'm working on here before I tip it up and do some welding is I'm going to make a reinforcement piece to go in where I made my pie cuts. So what I did for that is I marked a center line on my piece of cardboard right there, and I held that up. I used my square over here. Show you how I did this. Get that so it sits there. So I put the square in place like that, and then I held that piece of cardboard up with my center line, and then I just traced with a Sharpie top and bottom from the outside, and then that gave me my template. I went ahead, cut those two pieces off. I've got my front marked, and then I went ahead and did a test fit. And what I had to do when I cut the pattern out, I cut it I just cut the line off, and then it basically was touching here and here. So I went back and I removed just a little over 1/8 of an inch top and bottom, and that gave me the fit up. So it's looking pretty good. I got enough room to get it up in. You got to keep in mind you got that curvature inside here where the bend is. So I've got just a little bit of spacing there. So that's going to go into place, and I'll have to grind this weld on the inside. That'll go right into place there, and then weld front and back, top and bottom, and that should reinforce that area really good. Then once that's done, I do the little bit of welding that I need to do in the rear there. I think that'll give everything enough strength that I'll go ahead, take out this center cross member. It's just tacked on the bottom side in 4 spots. I'll get that out of there, and then I can go ahead and put the frame back down onto the running gear, and I'll be able to get the engine on the engine hoist and bring that over and at least get it sitting above the frame so I can kind of start playing around with where I want that to go. And then the other thing that I'll be doing is I'll bolt the body back together so that I can set the body up there and start to make some marks exactly where I'm going to want the body to set and where the engine will be able to comfortably fit in. So that's kind of my thoughts for the next step here. I did already connect the wishbones to the front axle, and I also have one connected to the rear axle. So that's going to allow me, once the frame is there and the body, I haven't decided for sure yet if I'm going to channel the body completely down over the frame, if I'm going to have it sitting on top. I want to kind of wait and see how things look as it's all setting together. My initial thought is I want the body down over the frame, and of course then that'll mean having to have brackets below the frame where the wishbones will attach, especially the rear ones. I have seen some where they actually go through the body with those mounts, and I personally don't like that look, so I'm going to try to stay away from that. With my pattern here, when I lay this out on my metal, so I've got 3/16 by 4-inch plate here, and I try to lay this stuff out all the time so that it's the least amount of cutting. So what I can do here is line up this front edge and the bottom edge. So then I just have to cut up, cut across the top, and then cut this corner off. So, if you lay that on there like that, with this piece, I use up a little bit more metal, and I'm going to waste more, and then it's cutting on every single edge. So this makes that go a little quicker. This end here was not perfectly square, but by the time I get that all prepped and ready to go in with it being a brace piece, that's fine. That little bit off right there is not going to cause any problems. This stock that I'm using is a thicker cardstock, and the school that I work at, we get stuff in all the time, paper and things like that will have these pieces of cardboard as backings, certificates and that type of thing, where they don't want them to get wrinkled up. And so I kind of have the word out there. I ask that these get saved, and I save them when I see them, and I keep them here in the shop. So they're thick enough that I can put them in place. And then I've got a really nice scribe here that's nice and sharp, and I can gently scribe along the edges, and then I just go back with my straight edge and I clean up my scribe lines. So with this piece here, I know from my cardboard piece it's exactly the size I want. So when I remove this material, I'll just remove right on my scribe lines, and that will give me a piece that's exactly the same size. I also make sure that I mark the front there. Now with this, it's pretty easy just to flip the piece from side to side, but I just get into the habit of doing that. Sometimes the pieces are a little more complicated, so when I'm cutting them out, depending on how I want to do the layout, I'll a lot of times mark it that way just to help me kind of picture what I'm doing. When I lay this one out, I'll lay these out at the same time. I just will go ahead and leave the spacing there for the saw kerf. So when I come down with my saw blade to cut that, I know it's going to take out that section, and then I'll be right where I need to be here on the other side. All right, I thought I'd see if I can show you guys this in real time. So I just went ahead and I cut off my piece here that's got my two patterns laid out on it, and I'm going to just cut right down the center to get this into two pieces. Now, depending on what you're doing here, this does leave a little bit of a burr, so I'm just going to quick knock that off of there. I've got the gloves on, but doing that not only keeps you from getting cut, but it also, depending on what you're cutting and how precise you have to be, it can also cause a little bit of a raise up on your saw. It's very little, but still it can put an angle on your piece. If you're doing a thicker piece, that can make a difference. Move this so that you guys can see the saw here. So I've just went ahead and welded the table right to a metal piece, and I have that so that it clamps in the clamp on the saw, and that works out really nice. The only thing holding it in place is that clamp. So When I want to take it off, I unscrew, lift it up, slide it back, and it's off, and then I can go ahead and cut stock to length. So there's one down. And same thing here, I'm going to grab that file and real quick clean up the back side of the cut edges. All right, let's check and see if they fit in place. All right, I'm back over at the frame. And that's rocking right now because I haven't cleaned that weld up on the inside yet. All right, so that's a real nice fit, and I'll go ahead now, flip the frame up on one side, get that all cleaned up inside, and get these welded into place. On part of the frame here, I am gonna cover up this hole, but I'm not gonna be using that. I have some different plans for the steering and everything, so I'll end up filling that in and cleaning that up anyway. So it's fine for me to cover that up.